The scent of fresh blood hung in the air as I cowered in the darkest corner of my room. It was a moonless night, and the ominous silence that enveloped the house was broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves in the chilling wind. I could hear them, their soft predatory whispers as they moved silently through the darkness. Vampires. My name is Daniel, and I had always been a skeptic when it came to the supernatural. Ghosts, werewolves, and vampires were the stuff of childhood nightmares, nothing more. But that night, as I hid in my room, I found myself irrefutably face to face with the creatures of the night. The haunting truth had begun to unravel when I received a letter in the mail. It was an invitation, an ornate piece of parchment sealed with crimson wax. The invitation bore a dark, foreboding emblem, a pair of entwined serpents, their fangs bared. It was an invitation to a gathering unlike any I had ever imagined, the blood-bound pact. Intrigued by the enigmatic message, I found myself irresistibly drawn to the address provided. It was an old, decrepit mansion at the outskirts of the town, hidden amidst the shadowy woods. The manor had the appearance of a relic from another era, a looming presence that sent shivers down my spine as I approached its imposing doors. The grand entrance hall was adorned with flickering candle sconces, casting dancing shadows on the blood-red carpet that ran down the center. A strange hush had fallen over the room, and the air was thick with tension. There, in the dim light, I saw them, figures draped in elegant, antiquated attire, their eyes gleaming with an unsettling hunger. Vampires. I was paralyzed by a sense of dread as they closed in on me, moving silently, their predatory instincts finely tuned. I had walked into a gathering of the undead, their alabaster skin a stark contrast to the rich dark colors of their clothing. They were beautiful, in a way that was almost hypnotic, but their beauty was a mask for something much more sinister. Their leader, a tall, regal vampire with raven-black hair and piercing sapphire eyes, approached me. "Welcome to the Bloodbound Pact," he purred, his voice smooth and seductive. "You have been chosen for a special purpose." I was bewildered, unable to comprehend the gravity of the situation. The vampire went on to explain that I had been selected as a human offering in a ritual to strengthen their covenant. The fear that had been gnawing at the edges of my mind was now a roaring storm, and I desperately sought a way out. But the vampires were too quick, too powerful. They had me in their clutches, and the ritual began. I was bound by ancient incantations and a sense of doom that only grew more suffocating as the minutes passed. I could feel their fangs graze my neck sharp and cold, and their whispered promises of immortality sounded more like a curse than a blessing. In a moment of sheer panic, I screamed. The sound echoed through the mansion, shattering the illusion of tranquility that the vampires had projected. The leader, his eyes now wild with anger, hissed at the others to release me. I stumbled back, free but still trapped within the manor's walls. The vampires glared at me, their plans foiled, their allure shattered. They had been thwarted, but their thirst for blood and power remained insatiable. As I fled through the labyrinthine corridors of the mansion, I could hear their footsteps, their inhuman speed closing the distance between us. I knew that I had to find a way out, but every turn seemed to lead me deeper into the heart of the vampire's lair. Desperation gnawed at me, and I stumbled upon a chamber that seemed like a dead end. The walls were adorned with old gilded mirrors, and in their reflection I could see the vampires drawing near, their eyes glinting with hunger. But then I noticed something peculiar about one of the mirrors. It didn't reflect me or the vampires. Instead, it revealed a passage, a hidden door that beckoned me with an eerie, otherworldly glow. With the vampires closing in, I had no other choice. I pushed through the secret passage, and it led me to an underground chamber, where I found a single ancient book illuminated by an ethereal light. The book was filled with incantations, spells, and lore about vampires. I realized that this was the source of their power and the key to breaking their curse. Desperation gave me courage, and I began to recite the incantations from the book, invoking ancient forces to shield me from the vampire's grasp. The chamber trembled, and the walls cracked as a blinding light erupted, banishing the vampires and sealing the mansion's dark secrets within. I emerged from the manor, shaken but alive. The vampires were no longer a threat, their power sealed away. The experience had changed me, leaving me forever marked by the encounter with the vampires and the haunting knowledge that there were forces beyond our understanding. As I gazed at the moonless sky, I knew that I had come face to face with the terrors of the night and lived to tell the tale. The blood-bound pact was no longer a secret, and the truth about vampires had become a nightmare that would never leave me. My name is Victor, and what I experienced in that forsaken laboratory haunts my every waking moment. It was a dark and stormy night when I dared to tread where no man should. The air crackled with electric tension as lightning split the sky, illuminating the twisted silhouette of the creature I had created, my very own Frankenstein's monster. The storm raged outside, echoing the tempest within me. I had been driven by an insatiable curiosity, a desire to unlock the secrets of life itself. But as I gazed upon the abomination I had birthed, fear gripped my heart like icy fingers. The monster, a patchwork of human limbs and grotesque scars, stared back at me with eyes devoid of humanity. I had pieced it together, not out of love or compassion, but out of a mad scientist's obsession. It was meant to be my magnum opus, the culmination of my life's work. But as I saw the flicker of intelligence in those lifeless eyes, I realized I had created a monstrosity beyond my control. The creature moved, its joints creaking with an unnatural sound. In that moment, I felt a surge of terror, unlike anything I had ever known. It was alive, but it was not truly living. It was a perversion of nature, a creature stitched together from the corpses of the damned, and now it hungered for something I could not comprehend. I stumbled backward, my mind reeling with horror. I had played God and created a monster. The very essence of life had been twisted and perverted in my hands, and now I was faced with the consequences of my unholy experiment. The creature's lips pulled back in a grotesque semblance of a smile, revealing sharp, yellowed teeth. It uttered a guttural sound, a twisted mockery of speech. "Creator," it rasped, its voice a grating whisper, "you have given me life. But what life is this? What purpose do I serve?" I had no answers for it. I was paralyzed by fear, my rational mind crumbling in the face of the nightmare I had unleashed. The creature took a step forward, its movements awkward and uncoordinated. It seemed to be learning to use its newfound limbs, and with each step, my dread deepened. As the hours passed, the storm outside intensified, the howling wind and crashing thunder punctuating the creature's slow, deliberate approach. I fled through the labyrinthine corridors of my laboratory, the walls closing in around me like the bars of a prison. The creature followed, its relentless pursuit echoing with each footfall. I barricaded myself in a small room, my hands trembling as I tried to devise a plan of escape. But the creature was relentless. It pounded on the door with inhuman strength, its roars of frustration reverberating through the room. I was trapped, a rat in a maze, with the monster closing in on me. In a desperate bid for survival, I searched the room for anything that could be used as a weapon. My eyes fell upon a syringe filled with a potent sedative. With trembling hands, I loaded the syringe and waited, my breath caught in my throat. The door splintered under the force of the creature's blows and it burst into the room, its eyes aflame with fury. I lunged at it, driving the syringe into its flesh. It roared in pain, its strength waning as the sedative took effect. With one final inhuman scream, it collapsed to the ground, its monstrous form twitching before falling still. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The reality of what I had done, the horror of my own creation, hung heavy in the air. I had toyed with life and death, and in my arrogance, I had paid the price. The storm outside began to subside, and as the first light of dawn crept through the shattered windows, I knew I would carry the scars of that night for the rest of my days. The laboratory, once a place of scientific inquiry, was now a chamber of nightmares. The very walls seemed to whisper of the darkness I had unleashed, and the air was thick with the stench of death and decay. I had ventured where no man should, and in my pursuit of knowledge I had become the architect of my own downfall. I fled the laboratory, vowing to leave my unholy experiments behind. But I knew that the memory of that night would haunt me forever. The ghost of the creature I had created would forever linger in the shadows of my mind, a reminder of the boundaries that should never be crossed. And so, I share this tale as a warning to all who dare to tamper with the forces of life and death. There are powers beyond our understanding, forces that should remain untouched. For in the pursuit of knowledge, there lies a darkness that can consume even the most brilliant of minds. Beware the temptation of playing God, for the consequences are far more terrifying than any mortal can comprehend.
My name is Emily, and the night I encountered the werewolf is forever etched into my memory like a nightmare that refuses to fade. It was a night of the full moon, when the world bathed in the silvery glow of lunar light, and a chilling breeze whispered secrets through the darkened trees. I had always heard the legends of werewolves, dismissing them as mere folklore meant to scare children. But that night, in the heart of the dense, ancient forest, I learned that some legends are born from terrifying truths. The night was unusually quiet, the air thick with an eerie stillness that sent shivers down my spine. I was hiking alone, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of leaves beneath my boots. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long, ominous shadows that seemed to stretch and contort with each passing moment. As I ventured deeper into the forest, I felt a strange sensation creeping over me, an unsettling feeling that I was being watched. I shook off the notion, attributing it to the natural apprehension one might feel in the depths of a dense, unfamiliar wilderness. But the feeling persisted, intensifying with every step I took. Suddenly, a low growl pierced the silence, sending a jolt of fear through me. I froze, my breath catching in my throat as I strained to identify the source of the sound. Another growl, closer this time, echoed through the trees, followed by a rustle of leaves. Panic gripped me, and I fumbled for my flashlight, desperately scanning the darkness for any signs of movement. The moonlight glinted off a pair of eyes, glowing like molten gold in the shadows. A shiver of terror raced down my spine as I realized I was not alone. The creature emerged from the darkness, its form grotesque and monstrous, a werewolf, as real as the legends foretold. Its fur was matted and streaked with mud, its snout stained crimson, and its claws glinted menacingly in the moonlight. Saliva dripped from its razor-sharp fangs as it advanced toward me, its eyes fixated on its prey. My heart pounded in my chest, the rhythmic drumming of fear drowning out all other sounds. I turned and ran, my legs pumping desperately as I tried to outpace the beast behind me. But the werewolf was faster, its long strides closing the distance with frightening speed. I could feel its hot breath on the back of my neck, and I knew I was running out of time. In a desperate bid for survival, I veered off the trail, hoping to lose the creature amidst the dense undergrowth. But the werewolf pursued me relentlessly, its snarls and growls echoing through the forest like a death knell. I stumbled over roots and rocks, my body bruised and battered, but the fear fueled my desperate flight. Just when I thought I couldn't run any longer, I saw a small, dilapidated cabin emerging from the trees. Hope surged within me as I sprinted toward it, praying that I could find sanctuary within its walls. I slammed the door shut behind me, my trembling hands fumbling to lock it. The cabin offered little protection, its walls creaking under the force of the wind, but it was a barrier between me and the werewolf that lurked outside. I peered through the window, my eyes widening in horror as I saw the werewolf prowling just beyond the edge of the forest, its eyes fixed on the cabin. Its nostrils flared, scenting the air, and I knew it could smell my fear. My breath came in ragged gasps as I backed away from the window, my mind racing for a way out. The werewolf's howl shattered the night, a mournful cry that chilled me to the bone. It circled the cabin, its movements predatory and calculated. I felt like prey, trapped and defenseless against the relentless hunter that stalked me. My pulse thundered in my ears, drowning out all other sound, and I knew I had to find a way to escape before it broke through the flimsy door. With trembling hands, I searched the cabin for anything that could be used as a weapon. My fingers closed around a rusted, iron poker, and I clutched it tightly, my knuckles turning white. I waited, my breath catching in my throat, as the werewolf's claws scraped against the wooden door. In a moment of sheer terror, the door splintered and the werewolf burst into the cabin, its eyes ablaze with primal hunger. I swung the iron poker with all my strength, connecting with its snarling muzzle. The werewolf howled in pain, stumbling back momentarily, and I seized the opportunity to sprint past it. I ran blindly through the forest, branches tearing at my clothes and skin, my lungs burning with exertion. I could hear the werewolf's heavy footfalls behind me, its enraged snarls urging me to run faster. My legs carried me as if possessed, my body pushed to the brink of exhaustion, until finally, I stumbled into a clearing. I collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, my heart pounding like a frantic drum. The werewolf's growls faded into the distance, and I knew I had eluded the creature, at least for the moment. I lay there, shaken and bruised, staring up at the moonlit sky, and I realized that I had survived a nightmare beyond imagination. But the memory of that night still haunts me, a constant reminder of the monstrous reality that lurks in the shadows. I share this tale as a warning to all who venture into the wilderness under the full moon. Beware the beast within the legends, for the werewolf is not just a myth. It is a terrifying truth that prowls the night, hungry for blood and bound by an insatiable hunger.